For this past 7 years, I would say, I have been grieving and feeling this sadness that just seemed to linger and not completely disappear. It was actually getting to the point where I thought there would not be an end to it. And also a big curiosity about where is all this grief coming from? And contemplation for the last year and significantly for the last several months, I have discovered some things about grief and grieving and loss that have actually opened me up to this serenity and I would say even more appreciative joy than I've experienced for a long time. So, one thing I discovered is that, of course, or remembered is that our life is full of loss. We are constantly experiencing loss, loss of loved ones, loss of a marriage, loss of a time of life. Sometimes it's loss of our health. And recently I had a loss of a dear pet who I had to help depart through home euthanasia. And of course, the grief came, and one reason I probably postponed, at least for a few days, of helping him leave, which is, of course, one of the great acts of love with a pet, is helping them depart. Could also be with a human being. That's another discussion. Um, is that I didn't want to feel the grief I knew was coming. Another, heavy wave of grief. One of my prayers while he was in hospice with me was that he could maybe take some of my grief with him, this mysterious grief that seemed to be hanging on for so long. And in fact, when he left, I did feel a lot of grief open up around missing him. And there's a special kind of emptying out and opening up and grieving that happens with the loss of a pet, because you create this sacred dance together, this rhythm of your life, your daily life gets connected to this being, especially when he went into palliative care or when I started palliative care for him and then hospice for him towards the end. Um, he dictated my calendar. But even before then, our life has this rhythm with our dear pets. And when that dance is gone, also, there's a lot of gap and openness and space, emptiness that is there when they're gone. So there's a definite recalibration, maybe even some confusion that's mixed in with the grief. Sometimes relief. I experienced my first good night of sleep the evening that he left. So there's that too. And with a human being, with a loved one, that can be also true where you experience this, um, you have, especially if you're doing any kind of caretaking for this person, your life calendar, your life rhythm, the beat of your life gets intertwined very intimately with that person. And then you discover when they leave, there was also, of course, stress. And so what comes with their departure, along with the grief, along with the missing, is the relief, is the ability to sleep. It also comes that emptiness and openness, where something else will come in or wants to come in. So those are some of the things I discovered. I also discovered that with all losses, with all losses, there also is a loss of identity. We somehow identify, of course, with our role with this person or our role as mother. So when I lose my daughter, my childhood daughter through adulthood, there's some grief there. And some of that grief is around identity loss. I'm no longer a mother to a child. I'm a mother to a woman. So there's really endless possibilities of exploration, of understanding, of being with, being mentored by our losses. I also notice a distinction between grief, which is really the emotion, which also just shows up on its own. We can decide whether or not we want to respond to it, whether we suppress it, whether we invite it in as a mentor or open up to it and allow ourselves to grieve. So then there's grieving, and grieving is a choice. Grief itself, the emotion, is not a choice. It's going to happen. We do have a choice of how we respond to it or what we do with it, how we might host it, or how we might ignore it or avoid it. And then there's grieving, which is a choice to be with our grief or to revisit our grief. So I invite you, if you're interested in exploring grief through journaling, meditation, some contemplation, I'm doing a day retreat in June, the last Friday in June. Just click on the link below and register. I'm not turning anybody away due to inability to pay, so just reach out to me if that's an issue. I intentionally made it affordable. It is online and live, and take a look at the what the day is full of. It's a full day, but mostly a full day of being with yourself, exploring loss, grief, and what having grief be your mentor actually bring to you. Thank you.